religion is for those of us who need some kind of comfort, who need to be wrapped up in beliefs, who need to have some kind of answer. And those people who feel they don't need religion do have a religion of some kind. Even the atheists have a personal religion. Neither believing in God or not believing in God is an answer to the realizing of God. To realize God, one stands alone, without any religion. Those of us who have realized God are simply happy, because God is being simply happy. God is disposition. God is not in the head or in the heart or in the body. Neither is God out of the body, because that implies something separate. God is a disposition. That disposition is represented by an open hand, as opposed to a clenched fist. It's the clenched fist that believes. It's the clenched fist disposition that requires beliefs and consolations and mental answers. And all these answers to very similar questions contradict. We're brought up to believe that 2 and 2 equals 4. We know that to be the case. 2 plus 2 equals 4. But considering that, what 2 is, it's 2 means 2 ones, plus another 2 ones. But we don't see the ones. We just see the 2 and the 2. So 2 plus 2 equals 4. 4 ones. But we don't see the ones. So what if 2 represents a half? How about 2 halves plus 2 ones? Then that equals 3. 3 ones. What about 2 plus 2? But 1 2 equals 2 quarters. So that makes it 1 and 2 quarters. So there's always something not apparent. There's always something there's something hidden. We haven't got quite, we don't quite understand. It's the esoteric teachings. The esoteric teachings are hidden. As it says in the Bible, they're hidden from the wise and the prudent. The wise and the prudent control our lives. The head is full of wisdom, so-called, knowledge, and the body is very prudent, very cagey, very manipulant. That's the general, everyday person, which no doubt you are. The vast majority of the population living today and previous populations of the previous centuries have been people unenlightened, not understanding the hidden teachings, not understanding the esoteric teachings. I'm not a Christian, but I use Christian texts in the Bible it says, the truth is hidden from the wise and the prudent. Heaven is hidden. You have ears, but you don't hear. You have eyes and you don't see. Well, the enlightened person sees differently to the ordinary man. It would be far easier for a camel to enter the kingdom of heaven than for the wise man. See, the wise man is arrogant, full of his own self, puffed up. It's a personal wisdom. The usual man has a point of view, and he or she sticks to it. The usual man is very competitive. The usual man knows best. The unenlightened man is very needy, and woman, of course. However, the enlightened person lives the realization that he or she is already happy without the need for scaffolding. That disposition is all there is. It's an unmade happiness, unconditional happiness, and it's synonymous with love. Real love and real happiness go hand in hand. And that's what God is, represented by the open hand. Now, my teacher, Adidar Samraj, has written a great deal about living as the open hand, given me anyway, a great understanding of what isn't God, and that is ego. What isn't God is ego, which is the ruination of mankind. It's the greatest disease and disease there is. Another name for the ego is self-contraction. And ego is actually sin, separation from that disposition of love and happiness. There are as many egoic dispositions as there are unenlightened people. And that's the vast majority of the population of the world. There may not be any enlightened people in one's town, and there are many towns. But some towns do have an enlightened person. An enlightened person, because of his or her freedom living in this disposition, is always at home. There's no separation. There's no me and yours. There's no I own this and you own that business. The enlightened person simply lives as God intends. The enlightened person's body and mind is God-possessed rather than self-possessed. He or she is always surrendered. He or she is always already happy. He or she sees clearly and is able to discern. He or she has nothing more to fulfill, as there's no self. He or she has become a servant. He or she has laid down his or her life, egoic life. There's no fear in the enlightened disposition. The enlightened disposition is full of humor. It's a delight to live. It's a joy to live. It's very vulnerable. That disposition of the open hand becomes a servant, is a servant. So I'm going to leave a link referring to Adidas' teachings, the wisdom of understanding. The esoteric teachings are inherent to every human being. But to be able to see clearly and to hear clearly, you've got to get out of the way. This cannot be this. This is seeing clearly and hearing clearly. This just doesn't. It's wrapped. It's suffocating God. It's all of its own arrogant self-importance. Living a life of anxiety, fear, unhappiness, suffering. Living like a headless chicken, always seeking more and more knowledge. Forever discontent. Forever wanting more of something. An addict to his or her own self-inflicted contraction. She or he knows best and crucifies that which is the light. Many enlightened people have been crucified and ridiculed and murdered. To be the light, this has to open. Has to be surrendered. Supplication. Renounce. It is what Jesus referred to as the devil. Get ye behind me. Jesus contracted. Jesus felt the devil. It was his inner being, inner darkness at that moment. Jesus closed down the light and had these mind forms. But he wasn't convinced by them. His heart, because the way of the heart, the way of the open hand is the way of the heart. His heart took over and said, no, get ye behind me. It was the result of the self-contraction at that moment. That was the devil. And Jesus said, no, get behind me. I don't want to know. I will not entertain those thoughts. Most unenlightened people entertain that kind of thought. This is what you can have if you pay for this. This is what you get if you work for this. If. So the way of the heart is the way of real happiness, love, joy, delight, freedom, intimacy, true friendship, true living.